Sometimes the worst moments of our lives arrive without warning, like a phone call at 3 a.m. or the screech of brakes on wet pavement. For Sarah Martinez, that moment came on a Tuesday morning, when she was folding laundry and humming along to the radio. Sarah worked 2 jobs, mornings at a daycare center, evenings cleaning office buildings. Her husband, Miguel, drove delivery trucks, sometimes 12 hours a day. Together, they made just enough to keep their small apartment and put food on the table for their twin daughters, Emma and Sophia. Just enough for a normal life. But as Sarah stared at the crumpled hospital bill in her trembling hands, she whispered the words that would haunt her. $847,000. Because 3 weeks ago, Sarah's whole world shattered when both her daughters collapsed at school within minutes of each other. The diagnosis hit like a freight train. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia, both girls. A 1 in a million chance that would require $1 million fight. And Sarah Martinez, who counted every penny at the grocery store, was about to face the impossible choice no parent should ever have to make. Let me take you back to when Sarah's biggest worry was whether she'd remembered to pack enough snacks for the daycare kids. Sarah had always been the kind of person who gave everything she had. At Little Steps Daycare, she was the teacher who stayed late to comfort crying children, who remembered every birthday, who somehow made magic happen with construction paper and glue sticks. The kids called her Miss Sarah, and she loved each one like they were her own. But her real treasures were waiting for her at home every day. Emma and Sophia, identical twins with completely different personalities. Emma was the artist, always drawing elaborate pictures of their family as superheroes. Sophia was the entertainer, performing dance routines in their living room that would make Broadway jealous. They were 8 years old, in 3rd grade, and thought their biggest problem was convincing Mum to let them stay up past 8 o'clock on weekends. That Tuesday started like any other. Sarah dropped the girls at Jefferson Elementary, kissed their foreheads, and reminded them she'd pick them up after her shift. Emma had her art supplies. Sophia had her lucky bracelet. Everything was normal. Everything was perfect. Until 11:47 a.m., when Sarah's phone rang at the daycare center. It was the school nurse, Mrs. Patterson, and her voice was shaking.
"Sarah, you need to come to the school right away. Both girls, they both collapsed during recess. The ambulance is here."
The world went silent. Sarah's hands started shaking so violently she could barely hold the phone.
"What do you mean, collapsed? Both of them?"
she asked, but Mrs. Patterson was already talking to someone else, giving directions to paramedics. Sarah left everything, her purse, her keys, her sanity, and ran 6 blocks to Jefferson Elementary in her daycare apron and sneakers. When she arrived, she saw 2 ambulances. 2. Her daughters were loaded into separate vehicles, both unconscious, both so small on those big stretchers. Miguel met her at Children's Hospital, still in his delivery uniform, his face pale with terror. For 3 days they lived in that hospital waiting room, surviving on vending machine coffee and the prayers of friends who brought them sandwiches they couldn't eat. The doctors ran test after test, blood work, bone marrow biopsies, CT scans, MRIs. Each procedure cost thousands of dollars, but Sarah and Miguel didn't care about money. They just wanted answers. They wanted their girls to wake up and ask for juice boxes and complain about hospital food. On the 4th day, Dr. Jennifer Walsh sat them down in a small conference room with a box of tissues and a gentle voice that somehow made everything worse. "Both Emma and Sophia have acute lymphoblastic leukemia," she said. "It's rare for twins to develop it simultaneously, but it happens." Sarah felt like she was drowning.
"But they'll be okay, right? Kids beat cancer all the time, right?"
Dr. Walsh nodded carefully. "With aggressive treatment, the survival rate is very good, but I need to be honest with you about what this means. We're looking at immediate chemotherapy for both girls, likely lasting 2 to 3 years. There will be hospital stays, medications, procedures, and constant monitoring." Miguel asked the question they were both afraid to voice. "How much will this cost?" Dr. Walsh hesitated. With your insurance, you're looking at significant out-of-pocket expenses, possibly several $100,000. Sarah's world tilted. Several $100,000? She and Miguel brought home maybe $50,000 a year between them. They had $800 in savings and a credit card that was already maxed out from Miguel's truck repairs. That night, as Emma and Sophia slept in their hospital beds with IV tubes in their tiny arms, Sarah sat in the hallway and called her insurance company. The representative, who sounded like she was reading from a script, explained that their basic plan covered 60% of treatment costs after the deductible. 60%? Which meant Sarah was responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars she didn't have. She hung up and cried in a hospital bathroom until a nurse found her and brought her a cup of tea. "Honey, have you talked to the financial aid office?" the nurse asked gently. Sarah shook her head. She didn't even know there was a financial aid office. The financial aid office was a small room with motivational posters and a woman named Janet who had seen this story too many times. Janet was kind but realistic. "With your combined income, you might qualify for a 20% reduction in costs," she explained, pulling out forms and calculators. "There are also payment plans available." Sarah did the math. Even with a 20% reduction in payment plans, she was looking at paying nearly $2,000 a month for the next 20 years. $2,000 they didn't have, for daughters who needed treatment now. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She walked the hospital halls past other parents who looked just as exhausted and terrified as she felt. Some were sleeping in chairs, others were making quiet phone calls in corners, probably having the same impossible conversations with insurance companies and relatives. She stopped at the Children's Wing Chapel, a small room with rainbow-stained glass and tiny chairs. She wasn't particularly religious, but desperation makes believers of us all. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to whoever might be listening. "I would give anything, do anything, sell everything I own, but I still wouldn't have enough. Please, just help me save my babies." Meanwhile, 3 states away in Denver, Colorado, a man named Robert Chen was working late in his downtown office. Robert was the CEO of Chen Technologies, a software company he'd built from nothing into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. He was reviewing quarterly reports when his assistant knocked on his door. "Mr. Chen, there's something you should see. It's about Sarah Martinez." Robert's assistant, Maria, had been with the company for 8 years. She was efficient, professional, and rarely brought personal matters to his attention. But tonight, she looked troubled. "Sir, do you remember Sarah Martinez? She worked in our customer service department about 4 years ago." Robert paused, searching his memory. Sarah Martinez. The name was familiar, but he dealt with hundreds of employees across multiple departments. "Refresh my memory, Maria." Maria pulled up Sarah's old employee file on her tablet. "She was with us for 2 years, single mother at the time, working part-time while her husband was deployed overseas. She was in the customer service department, and she was exceptional." Now Robert remembered. Sarah Martinez had been one of those rare employees who turned customer complaints into customer loyalty. She had a gift for making people feel heard and valued, even when she was delivering bad news. He remembered her from company meetings, always asking thoughtful questions, always volunteering for extra projects, despite working reduced hours. "She left when her husband returned from deployment," Maria continued. "They moved to Phoenix so he could be closer to his family. She sent you a thank you card, remember? She said working here had been a blessing during a difficult time in her life." Robert nodded slowly. He kept that card in his desk drawer, along with other notes from employees who had moved on. But why was Maria bringing this up now? "Sir, I follow her on social media. She posted something tonight that, well, it broke my heart." Maria handed him her phone. On the screen was a photo of two little girls in hospital beds, bald from chemotherapy, smiling weakly at the camera.
The post was simple but devastating. My beautiful girls, Emma and Sophia, are fighting the battle of their lives, both diagnosed with leukemia 3 weeks ago. The doctors say they're responding well to treatment, but we've hit a wall we never saw coming. The medical bills are overwhelming, and I'm scared we won't be able to continue their care. I've started a GoFundMe, but I know times are tough for everyone. If you can't donate, please just share this. I believe in miracles, and maybe someone out there can help us find one. All we want is for our daughters to have the chance to grow up, to go to prom, to have families of their own someday. Thank you for any help you can give. Love, Sarah Martinez. The GoFundMe had raised $800 in 3 days. $800 toward an $800,000 problem. Robert stared at the photo for a long time. Those little girls looked so much like his own daughter had at that age. Lisa was grown now, a successful lawyer with children of her own, but he remembered the terror of her childhood asthma attacks, the helpless feeling of watching your child struggle and being unable to fix it immediately. But he had been able to fix it. He had money, insurance, the best doctors. Sarah Martinez didn't have those luxuries. Maria, get me Sarah's contact information, phone number, current address, everything. Maria smiled. She had worked for Robert long enough to recognize that look in his eyes. Already pulled it up, sir. Should I call her? Robert shook his head. No, this requires a more personal touch. Cancel my meetings tomorrow. I'm going to Phoenix. The next morning, Sarah was back in her familiar spot in the hospital cafeteria, staring at bills she couldn't pay, while Emma and Sophia underwent their morning treatments. The social worker, Mrs. Rodriguez, had tried to be helpful, but the resources were limited. There were grants for low-income families, but the waiting lists were months long. There were charity organizations, but they typically covered only small portions of costs. Have you considered starting a fundraising campaign? Mrs. Rodriguez had suggested. Sometimes communities rally around families in need. Sarah had laughed bitterly. I posted on social media. We've raised $800. That won't even cover 1 day of treatment. She was scrolling through more unpaid bills on her phone when a man in an expensive suit approached her table. He was Asian, maybe mid-50s, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. Excuse me, are you Sarah Martinez? Sarah looked up, confused. She didn't recognize him, but he seemed to know her. Yes, I'm Sarah. Do I know you? The man extended his hand. My name is Robert Chen. I believe you used to work for my company, Chen Technologies. Sarah's eyes widened. Robert Chen, the CEO. She remembered him from company meetings, but they had never spoken personally. What was he doing here, in Phoenix, in a hospital cafeteria? Mr. Chen, what are you doing here? Robert sat down across from her, his expression gentle but serious. Sarah, I heard about Emma and Sophia. Maria, my assistant, showed me your social media post. I came as soon as I could. Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. She was embarrassed that her former boss had seen her family's desperation played out online. I'm sorry you had to see that. I never meant for... Robert held up a hand to stop her apology. Sarah, you have nothing to be sorry for. You're fighting for your daughter's lives. That's what any parent would do. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I remember when you worked for us. You had a gift for helping people, for making them feel valued and heard. You turned our customer service department around. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. That was just my job, Mr. Chen. No, it was more than that. You cared about people. Really cared. I remember the thank you card you sent when you left. You said working at Chen Technologies had been a blessing during a difficult time. Sarah nodded, remembering. It was. When Miguel was deployed, that job kept me sane. It gave me purpose and helped me provide for Emma and Sophia when they were babies. Robert smiled. You know, Sarah, success in business isn't just about profits and market share. It's about the people who help you build something meaningful. You were part of building Chen Technologies into what it is today. Sarah didn't understand where this conversation was going, but something in Robert's tone made her heart race. Mr. Chen, I appreciate you coming all this way, but if you're here to offer me a job, I can't leave Phoenix. The girls need to stay with their medical team, and Miguel has work here and… Sarah, Robert interrupted gently. I'm not here to offer you a job. I'm here to offer you something else. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I've been in touch with your daughter's medical team. Dr. Walsh was very helpful in explaining their treatment plan and the associated costs. Sarah's hands began to tremble. I don't understand. Robert opened the folder and showed her a document. This is a check, Sarah. It's made out to Children's Hospital of Phoenix for the full amount of Emma and Sophia's treatment costs. Sarah stared at the check. $847,000. Made out to the hospital, signed by Robert Chen. Her brain couldn't process what she was seeing. I can't, this isn't real. Tears started flowing before she could stop them. Mr. Chen, this is too much. I could never pay you back, never. Robert's own eyes were moist. Sarah, you're not supposed to pay me back. This is a gift. For Emma and Sophia, and for you and Miguel. Sarah was hyperventilating. But why? Why would you do this? You barely know me. Robert was quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. 25 years ago, my daughter Lisa was born with a heart defect. She needed surgery immediately, and then again when she was 5. I was just starting my company then, working 18-hour days, stressed about everything. But I never had to stress about whether I could afford to save my daughter's life. I never had to choose between treatment and bankruptcy. He paused, watching Sarah cry. You know what I realized? Success isn't worth anything if you can't use it to help good people when they need it most. You're a good person, Sarah. You were a good employee, you're a good mother, and your daughters deserve every chance to grow up healthy and happy. Sarah couldn't speak. She was sobbing too hard, clutching the check like it might disappear. But that's not all, Robert continued. I've also spoken with your mortgage company and paid off your house. And I've set up education funds for Emma and Sophia that will cover their college expenses when they're ready. Sarah looked up at him through her tears. This is a dream. I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream. Robert smiled. It's not a dream, Sarah. It's just what happens when good people look out for each other. Sarah stumbled through the hospital corridors, still clutching the check, still not believing it was real. She burst into the girls' room, where Miguel was reading to them from a picture book. Miguel, she gasped, you're not going to believe this. Miguel looked up, alarmed by her tear-streaked face. Sarah, what's wrong? What happened? Emma and Sophia, weak but alert, looked concerned. Mummy, why are you crying? Emma asked. Sarah sat on the edge of Emma's bed, trying to compose herself. Sometimes, babies, people cry when they're happy, really, really happy. She looked at Miguel. Do you remember Robert Chen, my old boss from Chen Technologies? Miguel nodded slowly. The CEO guy. You showed me his picture in the company newsletter once. Why? Sarah held up the check. Miguel read it, blinked, read it again. His face went white. Sarah, this says $847,000, Sarah whispered. He's paying for everything. Everything. Miguel stared at her. What do you mean, everything? The treatment, the house, college funds for the girls. Everything, Miguel. He drove here from Denver just to give us this. Miguel sank into his chair. I don't understand. Why would he do this? He said it's what happens when good people look out for each other. Sophia tugged on Sarah's sleeve. Mummy, does this mean we can stay here and get better? Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead. Yes, baby. You and Emma are going to get all the medicine you need, and you're going to get completely better. Emma smiled weakly. Can we send him a thank you card? A really big one. Sarah laughed through her tears. We're going to send him the biggest thank you card in the world. That afternoon, Dr. Walsh stopped by with the most beautiful words Sarah had ever heard. The financial hold on your daughter's treatment has been lifted. We can proceed with the full protocol immediately. News of Robert's generosity spread through the hospital faster than Sarah could have imagined. Nurses stopped by to share in the family's joy. Other parents in the children's ward, many fighting their own financial battles, celebrated with tears in their eyes. It gives us hope, one mother told Sarah, knowing there are still people like that in the world. But the story was far from over. When a local news reporter heard about the miracle on Ward 7, she asked if she could share the story. Sarah was hesitant at first. She didn't want to seem like she was bragging about her good fortune when so many other families were still struggling. But Robert, who had stayed in Phoenix to make sure everything was properly arranged, encouraged her to go public. Sarah, this story could inspire others to help families in need. It could create a ripple effect of kindness. The news story aired on a Friday evening. By Monday morning, Sarah's phone was ringing constantly. The GoFundMe she had forgotten about was suddenly receiving thousands of donations from strangers who had heard their story. But instead of keeping the money, Sarah made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She announced that all the GoFundMe donations would be used to create the Emma and Sophia Hope Fund, designed to help other families facing similar medical crises. Mr. Chen gave us more than money, Sarah explained to the reporter. He gave us hope, and hope is something we can share with everyone. Within 6 months, the Hope Fund had raised over $200,000 and helped 15 families with medical expenses. Robert Chen, initially uncomfortable with the media attention, agreed to serve on the fund's board of directors. A year later, Emma and Sophia Martinez were in remission. Their hair had grown back in soft curls, and they were back in school, back to their art projects and dance performances. Emma had painted a picture of a man in a suit with angel wings, which hung proudly in their living room. Sophia had choreographed a dance routine called The Miracle Man, which she performed at the hospital's annual fundraising gala. Sarah had returned to work, but not at the daycare center. Robert had offered her a position as Director of Community Outreach for Chen Technologies, a role that allowed her to work remotely from Phoenix while coordinating the company's charitable initiatives. It's perfect, she told Miguel. I get to help other people the way Mr. Chen helped us. Miguel had been promoted to dispatcher at his trucking company, a job with better hours and benefits. For the first time in their marriage, they weren't living paycheck to paycheck. They could afford little luxuries they had never imagined. Family vacations, restaurant dinners, piano lessons for the girls. But the most precious luxury was peace of mind. The terror that had consumed Sarah for those first few weeks, the fear that she might lose her daughters because she couldn't afford to save them, was gone. She could sleep at night knowing that Emma and Sophia were safe, healthy, and secure. Robert became a regular fixture in their lives, checking in monthly and attending the girls' school concerts and art shows. He was Uncle Robert now, the man who had saved their family and become part of it. On the second anniversary of the girls' diagnosis, the Martinez family traveled to Denver to visit Robert and his family. They had dinner at his house, where Emma and Sophia played with Robert's grandchildren and showed off their healthy, happy energy. That evening, as the adults sat on the porch watching the children play in the yard, Sarah turned to Robert. I've been thinking, Sarah said, watching Emma teach Robert's granddaughter how to draw butterflies, about what you said that day in the hospital cafeteria, about good people looking out for each other. Robert smiled. What about it? I don't think I was a good person, because I helped customers at your company. I think I was just doing my job. But you? What you did for us. That was goodness. Real goodness. Robert shook his head. Sarah, you're wrong about that. Good people don't just appear when crisis hits. They're good every day, in small ways, in ways that prepare them for the big moments. You were kind to customers who were frustrated. You were patient with coworkers who were difficult. You were grateful for opportunities when you had every reason to be bitter about your circumstances. He paused, watching Sophia spin in circles on the lawn. The day I got your thank you card, I kept it because it reminded me why I work so hard. Not for money or recognition, but for moments like these. For the chance to make a real difference in real lives. Sarah felt tears welling up again. Even after 2 years, she still cried easily when she thought about what Robert had done for her family. I used to lie awake at night, wondering what I had done to deserve having my children get sick. Now I lie awake wondering what I did to deserve having you save them. You don't deserve tragedy, Sarah. But you don't deserve rescue either. Life isn't about what we deserve. It's about what we choose to do with the gifts we're given. Miguel joined the conversation, holding a beer and looking more relaxed than Sarah had seen him in years. Mr. Chen, I need to ask you something I've been wondering about for 2 years. Call me Robert, and ask away. Why didn't you just send a check? Why did you fly to Phoenix to meet with Sarah in person? Robert considered the question carefully. Miguel, I could have sent money anonymously. It would have been easier, less complicated. But I learned something important in business. The most valuable thing you can give someone isn't money, it's dignity. He looked at Sarah. When I met Sarah in that cafeteria, I didn't want her to feel like a charity case. I wanted her to understand that this was one professional helping another, one parent helping another parent. I wanted her to know that she had earned this kindness through her own character and actions. Sarah understood now why Robert had been so successful in business. He didn't just see numbers and profits. He saw people and relationships. The beautiful thing, Robert continued, is that the story didn't end with me helping your family. It multiplied. The Hope Fund has helped dozens of families. Sarah's work with our community outreach program has created partnerships with hospitals across the country. Emma and Sophia talk to other children with cancer, giving them hope and courage. Sophia ran up to the adults, out of breath from playing. Uncle Robert, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help families like you helped us. Robert knelt down to Sophia's eye level. What do you want to be when you grow up, sweetheart? I want to be a doctor, so I can make kids better. And I want to be rich, so I can pay for their medicine. Emma approached, her latest drawing in hand. I drew this for you, Uncle Robert. It's our whole family, including you. The drawing showed stick figures holding hands in front of a hospital. Above them, she had written in careful 8-year-old handwriting, "Thank you for saving our family." As the evening wound down and the Martinez family prepared to return to their hotel, Robert pulled Sarah aside. I have something to tell you. Something I've been waiting for the right moment to share. What is it? Sarah asked, suddenly worried. Robert smiled reassuringly. It's good news. Chen Technologies is opening a Southwest division, headquartered in Phoenix. I'd like you to consider coming back to work for us, full-time, as the Regional Director of Operations. Sarah's mouth fell open. Robert, I don't know anything about operations. I was customer service. You know about people, Sarah. You know about solving problems and making people feel valued. Those are the most important qualifications for leadership.
He paused. The position comes with a significant salary increase, full benefits for your family, and the opportunity to shape how we do business in the Southwest. What do you think? Sarah thought about the little girl she had been, growing up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce. She thought about the young mother she had been, working part-time and wondering if she'd ever be able to give her daughters the life they deserved. And she thought about the woman she was now, confident and capable, with a family that was healthy and secure. I think, she said slowly, that miracles keep happening when you least expect them. 3 months later, Sarah Martinez started her new job as Regional Director of Operations for Chen Technologies' Southwest Division. Her first initiative was establishing an employee emergency fund designed to help workers facing medical or family crises. On her office wall, she hung 3 things: Emma's drawing of their family, Sophia's thank you card to Robert, and a framed copy of the first check she had written from the Emma and Sophia Hope Fund to help another family in need. Every morning when she arrived at work, she looked at those reminders of how quickly life can change, how much good people can do for each other, and how hope can multiply when it's shared. And every evening when she went home to her healthy daughters and her grateful husband, Sarah Martinez whispered the same prayer of gratitude she had said every night for 3 years. Thank you for the miracle. Thank you for the reminder that goodness exists. And thank you for letting us be part of passing it on.